Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Marcus, and here in front of me is the brand new 2019 Mazda 6 2.5T. Let's take it on the road. Alright, so you love what Mazda has been doing these last couple of years, and the Mazda 3 maybe is a little bit too small. The MX-5 is definitely too small for you. So here it is, the Mazda 6, with a completely redesigned interior and the 2.5-liter turbocharged engine under the hood, putting out 250 horsepower and 300 pound-feet of torque. It's pretty quick, so let's get it on the road, see how it drives. So first things first, you guys, in the Mazda 6, sport mode. All right, this is a driving channel. We are driving enthusiasts here at Roads Untraveled. If you haven't watched our channel before, unfortunately the Mazda 6 is not offered in a manual transmission, but here's the thing, this 2.5-liter turbocharged engine is a gem. I love this thing, okay? So we're gonna go for a quick rip. I'll show you what it's like to drive, give you a few of the specs, and a few of the options that Mazda does offer in the Mazda 6. But overall, I'm just gonna tell you if it's good or bad to drive. If it drives well or if it doesn't drive well, in what scenarios it does, in what scenarios it doesn't, and then you guys can be the judge. Mazda is killing it lately, not just in terms of their interior design, but exterior design, their engines, the options that they have now available for the money. It's a great bargain. Now, this, as tested, sits at $40,000 Canadian. So the Mazda 3 base starts at 27. You can option that up to like well into the 30s, and then this is optioned to about 40,000. So not too much more than a nicely spec'd out Mazda 3. And you get a few more luxury features. So it is in sport mode. We are going to stick it in manual, and we're going to shift by ourselves with the paddle shifters. Now, this is a 6-speed automatic transmission. It is a torque converter. It's not a dual clutch. So you don't have instantaneous crisp shifts if you are shifting yourself with the downshifts. As you can see, there's a little bit of a delay, but albeit pretty damn good. Pretty good, if I might say so myself. I find it best just to put it in sport and then just leave it in automatic. It'll pretty much pick the right exact gear for you every single time, whether you're exiting a corner, going into a corner, accelerating onto the highway, and it'll get you the best fuel economy that way as well. Not in sport mode, but if you just leave it in auto and let it shift yourself. But in sport mode, if you're kind of going in a windy curved road, or you don't know when you'll need power next and you'll need to pass someone, you can leave it in sport and then it'll keep the revs a little bit higher, so when you do need to pass someone, you don't have to wait for the transmission to kick down to get your power. Now, speaking of power, as I said in the beginning of the review, if you put high octane fuel here in North America, you will get 250 horsepower and 300 pound-feet of torque, which is a lot. It's a lot. Even in a big sedan like the Mazda 6, this is a real gem of an engine. The torque comes on incredibly low in the RPM band, and it is turbocharged, but at the same time, it still has, it's not like a 2-liter, it's a 2.5, so it has some displacement to back it up. And what that provides on the road and what you actually feel is more responsive torque that kind of builds into the turbo, and then once the turbo spools up, you are gone. Like, seriously gone. I am blown away by how quick this car is out of the box, and frankly, if you watched our Mazda 3 video, one of my criticisms with that car was even the manual, like the highest spec'd out manual version, just does not have enough power at about 186 horsepower. This has a lot more power and a lot more torque, and is by far faster than any Mazda 3 you can spec out today. Which is ironic because generally the smaller, more sportier car is faster, and then the big car just gets a little bit more of a lethargic, traditionally naturally aspirated engine, but I'm glad in this case Mazda did go with the turbo engine. Now, we did just review the Mazda 3, which kind of, and driving this car, it kind of makes me a little sad. Now, here's why. Because this is what I really want out of life. Mazda, this is what I want out of life. I want the new Mazda 3 with a manual, with all-wheel drive, with this 2.5 turbo engine. You would smoke any STI on the road. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. But it would definitely be a hard competitor for the STI and a few of the other Audis, like maybe the S3 or something. It would be a very comparable package, a very, very fast car, like seriously quick, because just judging how this engine performs in the Mazda 6 chassis, I cannot imagine how it would perform in the much lighter and more nimble chassis of the Mazda 3 with a manual. Now, this is the Mazda 6. You're not looking for a manual. Honestly, even if they offered this in a manual, if I was looking for a Mazda 6, I would option the automatic. Now, as a driving enthusiast, Marcus, you sound crazy. You would option it with an auto? Yeah, guys, sometimes I prefer an auto over a manual. It's very rare, but as long as I have two cars, as long as I have my fun car for the weekend, I kind of want to just be comfortable on my daily commute. And some of the features that Mazda's included in here really, kind of just set it in stone that this is not a sports sedan. Although it does have a lot of torque up front for passing, it's not a sports sedan. Case in point, it does not have a limited slip differential up front, which thus far, driving this car for the last few days, is my biggest criticism. Now, the average Joe, when driving this car, probably won't really see it as a criticism, won't notice the benefits of a limited slip, and that would just add unnecessary costs. So here's what that means. If the Mazda 6 had been optioned with a smaller, naturally aspirated engine without a turbo, and not monstrous torque numbers, then it wouldn't be as big of an issue. But this being a very torque-heavy engine, which is a very good thing. Like I said, I love this engine in combination even with this transmission. But when you are exiting a low-speed corner, you do have a tendency to get a lot of understeer, and you will get a lot of torque steer as well. For those of you who don't know what torque steer is on a front-wheel drive vehicle, when you don't have proper torque managing up front and you go full throttle, you're trying to exit the corner, it will pull you to one side because there's so much torque getting driven to the front wheels. It literally will pull you to one side, and you'll have to fight the steering wheel a little bit. And that is very evident, especially when you're in manual mode, off the line, and you're going full throttle. Now, very rarely might you be doing that, but I am. And we're kind of, we push these cars a little bit more than the average Joe would so that we can expose some of the imperfections that they might have. Especially because this has been fitted with Mazda's new G vectoring control system, GVC for short, which is awesome. It completely transformed the new Mazda 3, and it does the same here in the Mazda 6, accurately controlling with a computer torque being sent to the front and side to side, and kind of controlling the pitch and the yaw of the vehicle coming in and out of corners. You could feel it. It feels very good, but then that kind of accentuates even more so that the fact that this car does not have a limited slip differential up front, which it desperately needs with all of this torque.
Over the last couple of weeks, we've had the opportunity to film some of Mazda's new models, including the MX-5, we've had the Mazda 3 all-wheel drive, and the Mazda 3 GT Sport. Now we have the Mazda 6, and I can't wait to show you some of these features on the inside. It is by far way more luxurious than the Mazda 3, which I already thought that Mazda nailed pretty good. There's a couple of things though I want to point out before we hop in the inside. Now with the Mazda 3, they absolutely nailed the keyless entry system. They removed the button altogether and allowed the entire handle to unlock the car as long as the remote is within the proximity of the car. Unfortunately, just like with the MX-5, the Mazda 6 is not equipped with this new feature, so you're left with the button again. So if we go and unlock the car using the button, as you see, the mirrors are actually automatic now. So whenever you're parked into a stall, you don't really have to worry about people clipping the side of your mirror as they fold in automatically. So let's hop in and take a look. So obviously, as soon as you sit inside this new Mazda 6, the first thing you're gonna notice is the completely redesigned interior. Now, they've included with this car the Nappa leather package, and along with the suede finish and the satin chrome accents. Now, all this stuff looks really good together, and it's very subtle, but it comes across as very luxurious. They've also included some real wood paneling here, which in the past I've not been a huge fan of, but I think they've nailed it with this car. Also, of course, with this being a fully spec'd out Mazda, you get your nice Bose sound system, and it sounds awesome. Now, unfortunately, one of the things that they did bring back over to the Mazda 6 is the piano black finishing. Now, this car only has 600 kilometers on it, so there hasn't been a whole bunch of use. And as of right now, the actual piano black, it looks like it's in good shape. But based on our previous experience with the Mazda 3, I highly expect this to scratch just as easily, and after a year or two, it's not gonna look the greatest. Now, everything inside this car feels and looks great. Everything is sturdy and has a good quality touch to it. Taking a look at the steering wheel, I think they did an awesome job making something that fits well in the hand and giving you just enough buttons so they're easy to operate, but it's not overwhelming. So this being a Mazda 6, they did not give you the manual transmission option like they do in the Mazda 3. But that being said, they did give you the paddle shifters. So if you actually want to go out for a nice drive and really dive into the corners, you have a little bit more control over the car. Now, just like with the Mazda 3, they give you the heads-up display, which shows you your speed, which is nice because when you're driving, you don't have to worry about looking down and figuring out how fast you're going. Now, a couple new features they've included in this model, and one of my favorites, is the vented seat option. Now, personally, I find that they don't work the greatest, but that being said, I would much rather have it than not, because in the summer, to have that little bit of extra cooling and ventilation just feels amazing on the road. Also, just like with the Mazda 3, you have your heated steering wheel option, which personally I really like. Now, obviously, when you get into this car and look for the button to turn it on, this is where Mazda has come with a unique design choice, so to speak. They've actually put the start-stop engine button up here beside the navigation system. It is a very strange placement for it, but once you actually take a look at the dash and take a look at the suede design, it kind of makes sense because I don't know where else they would be able to install it other than there. Now, taking a look at the gauge cluster, Mazda has given you a nice hybrid combination between the mechanical needle and the digital display. Now, personally, I actually really like digital displays, but it's always nice to see a physical needle there as well, and I think they've hit a great balance between the two. Now, again, this being more of a luxurious model than the Mazda 3, the back seats are actually heated, and I think that's the coolest feature. Now, they've included the heat buttons in the armrest that you pull down, which gives you the option to turn on either side. Along with a few USB charging ports, which is always nice because I hate having cords running across the console to try to charge phones in the back. Now, looking at the button layout here, I have to say that I really like what Mazda has done. Along with the MX-5 and the Mazda 3, everything is very intuitive. There's no learning curve. You can sit down and operate everything right off the bat, and there's no guesswork involved. Now, in order to limit driver distractions, Mazda actually removed the touchscreen feature in the navigation system. Now, with the Mazda 6, they've actually brought it back. And personally, I kind of like the touchscreen capabilities of it. I just wish that it didn't smudge up as much as it does. Now, the biggest disappointment I have with this Mazda 6 is the backup camera. Now, with the Mazda 3, they absolutely nailed it, and the resolution and field of view is awesome. Unfortunately, for some reason, the camera that they've supplied this car with is terrible. Like, it's very pixelated, the quality is just awful. So it's a little bit of a trade-off. You get the extra camera angles, which is a nice feature, but the quality overall is quite poor. Now, just like all the other models from Mazda, you actually have the standard navigation system, and they just nailed it. It's great. It's very quick, responsive, and there's no lag time whatsoever. I can't say enough good things about their simplistic layout and design. So let's hop back inside with Marcus and let's finish up the review.
Honestly, it has more grip than you'll ever need. Any normal person will need, at least. We like to hit the back rows just because it actually allows us the freedom to control how we do things. But traction control is very seamless. A lot of traction control systems will be extremely invasive and just like cut power or cut steering input or whatever the heck it might be, or whatever it may be. But Mazda's traction control system is actually very seamless, and if you're not looking at the dash for the flashing light, you're not going to really notice the traction has actually limited your power or kind of taken you on the safer route, you know. It does have an awesome heads-up display that pretty much all new Mazda products have, which I love. I don't know why more vehicles don't have this as standard. I think it's one of the best things about the Mazda 3 and the Mazda 6. And it just makes driving a lot more pleasurable. You don't have to keep looking down at the speedometer. And with Mazda's radar cruise control system, it just integrates brilliantly into that heads-up display. It tells you the speed limit, of course, and you can set your cruise control whenever you'd like, and it will drive itself. It will kind of keep you in the lane as well. It will kind of steer you back in the lane a little bit, come to a full stop, and then go forward again. So it drives itself to a certain extent. It won't steer for you. It's not autopilot by any stretch of the imagination, but if you've ever driven a vehicle with radar cruise, very unsettling at first, but once you get used to it, it actually makes driving on the freeway a lot less stressful. Give you an idea of the power here. We'll do like a 0 to 100 kilometer an hour test right here. I'll try to show you the torque steer as well. And go. 100 kilometers an hour. It's pretty good. It's not insanely fast, but I was pleasantly surprised with how quick this car is. And it definitely would have the power to catch you off guard if you're not careful. See, it pulls to the right. It pulls to the right quite a bit. But yeah, it's a great driving car. I think it handles well. It's a big sedan, but it does not carry itself like a boat. Mazda knows very good driving dynamics. Like if there's anything that Mazda does exceptionally well, it's get the driving dynamics nailed. And what I mean by that is what the driver actually feels through the input, how it feels to steer. Does it get unsettled if you push it a little bit too hard into a corner? The vehicle will almost correct itself if you make a mistake, or if it feels that it could be more efficient in taking a route around a corner, right? It's a very smart car. It's a very comfortable car. It's a very quiet car. It's really, really quiet on the inside here when you're just driving along. But this engine has a really mean tone when you get into it. The Mazda 6 is an all-around great package, especially for the money. Fully optioned out for 40 grand. I mean, you can't get much better of an interior, especially for that money. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and the brand new Mazda 6. I know I sure did. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit me up on Instagram to follow what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, what we're filming. If you guys don't know, we shoot new cars like this, as well as we shoot and feature a lot of stuff in the modified car world. We show off people's builds and their stories behind what they've done to their cars from all walks of life and from all manufacturers. So look out for that and a lot of epic videos to come. We'll see you guys next time.